immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to have our regular Q&A session where we discuss U.S. immigration live for those interested in the U.S. immigration process. All the information here is intended as general education, not individual legal guidance. Please consult with an immigration attorney about your case because we don't have enough details to really get into a case here. But what we do is we just give kind of general guidance and advice on various platforms, TikTok, Instagram. We're just having some issues right now I got to fix up, as well as YouTube and on LinkedIn. So all you got to do is shoot out your questions. We'll answer the best of our ability, kind of give you an understanding, and then take it from there. So having said that, let's get the show started. For Instagram might not work today. Let's see how we can fix that. Edit. So just shoot out your questions. Again, we're on YouTube and all. The last week has been crazy with the immigration stuff, but it's just going to get crazier, especially with the stuff going on with the war right now. It's been a really kind of a nasty kind of couple of weeks, and it seems like every week there's a new insanity going on, and we're trying to figure out how to deal with all of it, cope with all of it. Here in Los Angeles, they've been canceling interviews scheduled for citizenship and green cards and postponing them. They're rescheduling and stuff because of what's happening. But we'll see. It's a really wild situation that's happening. Hopefully, it'll get better. So let's take some initial questions live. Okay, Instagram's working now, so you get live there. But let's see on TikTok. Got a lot of people joining us. Thanks for coming to give us your immigration questions and do our best to give some good answers so you have an understanding of what's going on. Again, with regard to Los Angeles, they had to cancel a lot of meetings because there are a lot of protests going on downtown with riot police as well as Marines. They sent the military. Very peculiar thing to do, border potentially illegal, but that's what's happening. And people are getting picked up. Even allegedly a U.S. citizen was detained. So it's kind of a weird situation. How do you handle it? Do U.S. citizens need to carry around proof of citizenship? That's a troubling kind of situation, but that's what we're going through in our country right now. For those who had interviews, they are rescheduled right now. Today, they canceled potentially the rest of this week as well for immigration interviews with USCIS, and they're postponed to later June to July. Hopefully, the situation gets fixed up so people can go to their interviews in downtown LA is a little more safe. That's the big news. What happens to that? Now, we also had a travel ban that started, and the travel ban affected a lot of countries, but the big population ones were Iran and Venezuela. There is an exception for it for immediate relative cases. These are parents, minor children, and spouses of U.S. citizens, which is good, but it doesn't apply to fiancés and spouses and minor children of green card holders, which can hit a lot of people real hard, especially with the wait times that exist right now in all of these cases. So there's been another reports of more travel ban countries coming. We've had reports like this before, so who knows if it's real or not. But those reports included Nigeria and Egypt in there. Those are two very populous countries that use the immigration system a lot. There are lines for green cards in Nigeria already backed up for like spouses of U.S. citizens, years and years of waiting. In the embassy in Egypt is not too far off, and having a lot of delays and issues happening is there. We deal with both embassies, unfortunately. We've had a tough time just getting things done with them because they're backed up and who knows what kind of issues. So this is just going to continue, and we're seeing delays and issues and worries happening all over the world. A lot of people involved in the war right now, they shut down the embassy in Israel, so a lot of interviews there are not going to happen for Iranians. Not sure how to get out of the country right now, so it's just a really crazy situation. Brian Carpio says, is it safe to travel with the pending I-751? An I-751 removal condition is to extend a 2-year green card to a 10-year green card. The reason it was a 2-year green card is because they got their green card based on a newer marriage, and the government requires you to submit a new case after 2 years of getting the initial green card by filing Form I-751 and additional evidence of the relationship being real. Now, these cases are pending 1 to 3 years. In the meantime, if you have an expired green card with the I-751 receipt notice that showed that you filed the case, and you get a receipt notice, you get an automatic, I think, 4-year extension or 5-year extension, something like that, to hold you over. Generally, it is safe to travel, but I can't give individual legal guidance because you might have criminal history or other inadmissibility issues I'm not aware of. Also, your case might have issues that may get denied while you're outside, and that could be a problem for you to back in. So I can't tell you, Brian, if you're safe or not because I don't know you. Generally, it's safe for most people, but these are the things we got to watch out for. Look over your history, look over the strength of your case, any issues that we can see exist. And inevitably, every time you exit the country, it's up to discretion of the government and stuff. You're supposed to be entered generally, but they do whatever they want, So there was a case of somebody who had their I-751 denied. They refiled it with an immigration judge, was reviewing it on that court. In the meantime, they used that extension notice of travel and came back, and they wouldn't let him back in the country. This is in Boston. They said our new policy under the new administration is that if you're in immigration court with a pending I-751, we're not going to let you back in the country, which was not the case before. So that's why if you ask safe or not, it's better you don't in certain conditions. Faye says, hi, Mr. Lawyer. Hi to you too. Thank you for joining us. Feel free to shoot out your questions. The best place to join Ask Questions is on our YouTube page because we don't get inundated with the other systems that just show a lot of people joining and it's hard to keep track of what's going on. Our YouTube page is U.S. Immigration Talk or JQK Law. You find there, subscribe. And we have a lot of other content there, hundreds and hundreds of clips and hundreds and hundreds of breakdowns. Every question possible is already answered there. I should have an AI go interview all our old videos and make a chat bot off it. That's probably the thing to do, give answers. But Patsy says, do you know the time for an E2 for Canada? For E2 from Canada, it's probably, it's gotten faster. I haven't had a recent one, but I remember colleagues mentioning it. It's maybe 1 to 3 months. It's nothing too crazy. So it's not too bad. And E2 is an investor visa. Certain countries have agreements with the U.S. where Americans go to that country or they come to our country and start a small business. And all they do is invest some money, have a realistic business, and they come and do it. It's called the E2 investor visa. It's a really neat thing to do, and we help people in that entrepreneurial kind of case as well. Period said, is it safe to file I-212 and I-601A due to removal? It's not safe or unsafe. I mean, if you got to do it, you got to do it. But inevitably, you're identifying yourself and stuff. For I-601A, you need to have an I-130 approved, so it's not much safer. You already have an I-130. They know where you are and everything like that. Yeah, I-601As are up in the air. This whole situation is up in the air. Whether they're going to prove it, hold it against you, just sit on it. It's not really clear. Iman Air says, is a 90-day rule real? So the 90-day rule says that if you enter the United States and do things within the first 90 days that don't go along with the kind of visa type that you have, they could be a presumption of fraud. Now, the embassy system has a foreign affairs manual. It's their policy. USCIS, Immigration Department in the U.S. doesn't have that. They do a general review of what they think and it could be problematic or not. For example, so they don't go by 90 days per se, but there's a general policy you'll hear online that says, wait 90 days before I do anything. It might be safer to do that just to do it. But for example, it's primarily for people who enter and get married within 90 days and file for a green card. If you're marrying a U.S. citizen, practically speaking, you'll hear a lot of scare stuff online, but I've never seen anything happen from that. But I've seen issues where people, for example, come to U.S. on a tourist visa, and then immediately as soon as they come here, they go start seeing universities and file for change of status to a student visa. And even USCIS will deny the case, saying you came on a tourist visa, but your intent was to bypass the embassies to not get an F1 student visa, but to change of status in the U.S. because it might be easier, faster, smoother to do that. And so we think you did misrepresentation or fraud there. As well as situations, this is more rare too, but we mentioned the E2 investor case. Someone came on a tourist visa and immediately filed change of status to E2. All these things like, wait, you came as a tourist is inconsistent. Well, these kind of things you could tell potentially at the border that you are intending to come here to start a business. Please give me a B1 instead of the B2, which is a business visitor, and just put it ahead of time or at the embassy. Tell them the reason why you're coming. Now they might deny it, but if you're getting a visa, and say those things. But these are kind of things they could do ahead of time to plan for it. Unfortunately, people usually contact us after the problems are there, so it's hard to fix. So we come ahead of time. We can kind of plan and work with the government on these things. Lolo Zumi says, have the recent changes in immigration law impacted those with pending or approved VAWA cases? To a certain extent, yes. The policy generally for U visas, green card case pending visas, VAWA, all this kind of stuff has been, if you add a status, you overstayed a visa, and you're in the United States, if you have these kind of cases, they're going to give you deferred action. They won't bother you until a decision is made, but they're taking that away. How hard they're going to enforce them, we don't know. But just because you have a case pending in the United States doesn't mean they're not going to bother you, come after you, or do something like that. And that's the nasty scenario that we're seeing right now. I'm seeing an Instagram right now frozen. I'm not sure our friends can see us there. Well, that's unfortunate. Daryl asks on YouTube, can you file for citizenship even if you are separated from your spouse, married for 6 years, or had a green card for 3 years? Well, to be able to file for citizenship naturalization for N400 based on the 3-year model instead of the 5 years, so you file the 3 years after getting a green card instead of 5 years, you must have been married and living with your U.S. citizen spouse for the last 3 years before you file for citizenship. So if you're separated, you might not be living together. At that point, you've broken that rule and you have to wait the full 5 years. Now, there's an exception that I've seen immigration lawyers don't know it, but if you're living together at the time of filing, but you separate afterwards, as long as you don't get divorced by the time the oath ceremony happens, they get still accepted. By the time of filing, you still have to be living together. So we got to see what's going on there on your specific fact pattern, your life, your divorce filing, your separation file, all this kind of stuff, evidence that you have that you've been living together, when they're living together stopped, and all that kind of stuff, and make a decision there. But if you've not filed for 400 and you're not living together at this point anymore, then that's you got to wait the full 5 years. See user one of our regulars says, good afternoon, Attorney Castro. Good afternoon too. Thank you for logging on again. Neelufar says, my parents came with an IR5 visa 6 months ago, but didn't receive green card yet. I made payment. So first things first, the visa stamp, that immigrant visa stamp in their passport that was stamped again by CBP, the Customs Border Protection, once they arrive, that'll create a green card for them for 1 year after entry, so that'll hold them over. You should call USCIS to see if they mailed the green card to the wrong place. But, sometimes it takes 9 months, 10 months, 11 months to get the green card sent out. It's not unheard of. And sometimes the USCIS says they delivered it, but the post office lost it, and you got to file Form I-90 to get a new one, and they force you to pay for it. So all these scenarios do happen. They happen frequently, unfortunately. First and foremost, contact USCIS to confirm whether it's been sent out or not. So if it is, they have the right address potentially, or maybe the post office lost it or something like that. You got to see what to do and try to get fixed up. Christina says, what should I expect at immigration court for a minor whose mother has already been deported? I don't handle immigration court cases. The minor should have a lawyer on their own if they can afford it, if they get it. But I'm not an expertise. I don't have expertise in immigration courts. So I don't want to discuss or answer questions about that. Fasti Flu says, thanks, you're welcome. Tyrone says, how do I get someone deported? It's not about getting someone deported. That's up to the government if they want to do that. All right, Christina said, I-130 approved, yes. Number one says, I'm not sure what your question is. NOPE says, is it safe for permanent residents to travel domestically to targeted cities? If you don't have any issues and you have your green card and no criminal history and all that kind of stuff, yeah, this is America, should be able to travel. Now, generally speaking, the government is doing a lot of stuff that's, who knows what they're doing. So at the end of the day, I can't say everything is safe, but there's nothing that the whole point of having a permanent residency is your ability to be able to travel. Mitha says, officer canceled an interview because they didn't have our file. Didn't get an update till now. I'm sorry to hear that. Sometimes it happens when you go to a USCIS interview. The officer says, we just can't find your file, so I have to cancel and have to come back when we're ready. And who knows when it's going to get ready. I mean, you could try sending them a letter, calling USCIS. They're probably not going to happen. You just got to wait. See, it says, hello to you too. J2 says, I don't really get what real ID really is. What is considered real ID? So this is not an immigration issue per se, but the real ID is essentially a federally approved ID. It could be your passport. It could be certain state driver's licenses and IDs that are sufficient for that. But ask, it's really easy to ask like ChatGPT or just ask Google. It's going to be a full explanation there. This show is not really the best place for something like that. Kofi asks, question, I just had my 2-year green card. Can I travel next month? I just had my 2-year green card. I don't know. I mean, if your case is clean, your background's clean, and you don't have issues, you have your paperwork in order, probably. But I don't know anything about you to be able to say what you can do. Caesar asks, if the parent and grandparent were not able to spend the required time to pass citizenship to the grandchildren, are there any other remedies other than seeking another way to get a green card? I mean, if they are citizens, even if they didn't satisfy the physical presence requirement passed on the children, the parent can file for the child's green card. And then if the child's a minor, when they come and live with the parent in the United States, become citizens, or they just wait 5 years and get citizenship on their own. But they just got to go through the longer, green card route. Well, says, hi, John. Thank you. I have a marriage-based green card appointment coming up. I have an asylum application pending. It was because of criticizing Hamas in Gaza. I am originally Gaza. Any advice? I mean, make sure would there be any fear just because I'm Palestinian? Not per se. I mean, I had a Palestinian case approved. I was 2 years. It was last Trump administration. I think I got a Palestinian case approved. But Palestinian Australian. So, but there's nothing per se. I mean, if you haven't done anything wrong and your case is clean, you're prepared for the interview about your marriage, your joint documents, civil documents. It's just a basic marriage case that you need to prep for. Krishi says, my husband got LPR through sham marriage and 400 denied us. He's bigamist. How to know his green card revoked or not when he will be deported? Well, he's got to get a notice to appear in court, and they got to deal with that. Bigamy, I think, is a crime in many states too. So it's up to the government how they're going to do it. Mo follows up. Will there be any fear just because I'm Palestinian? Thank you, sir. Not really. I mean, Palestinian per se doesn't matter unless you've been saying stuff about Israel or something like that. That's a problem. But just being Palestinian itself shouldn't be a problem. But I don't think it will. Caesar says, thank you, Tony Construct. Good advice. Probably challenging to do it at both our advanced age and living abroad for a long time. Likely have plans to come back. So, yeah, because once they start they could get a green card for the child. But to finish out the green card process, they have to be domiciled in the United States. They have to move back for some period of time. They also need to find a financial sponsor, so it gets a little complicated. But maybe worth doing. I don't know. Especially with all the craziness in the world. I don't know. Is it safer to be here or not be here? I don't know. Lucy says, my husband is detained by ICE, military parole in place, denied, pending I-130, bond denied twice. Oh, that's horrible. I'm sorry to hear that. You need to have a private attorney look into what happened, why the military parole in place was denied. Bond was denied. It might be criminal history, and that might be a reason why the parole in place was denied too, but we'd have to see the details of it. You're welcome, C user. It says, thank you for additional details. Say it says, hi, sir. What period? There was another question. Period says, what do you defeat got I-130 approved but have deportation try to terminate? I can't. You need to talk to the attorney private, because if you have deportation order, you got to reopen that case, and it's a very complicated thing. See, it says, hey, sir, my applied I-485 adjustment of status on relative position. It's been 4 months. Okay, it's nothing for immigration, 4 months. Patrimony says, do amendments from U.S. Constitution apply and can be claimed by undocumented immigrants, such as Fourth Amendment? I'm not a constitutional law scholar, so the intent of this program is more for practical immigration cases pending, that kind of filing, that kind of stuff. Christina says, thank you, you're welcome. Neil Fire says, one of my parents received, but not the other, and they don't answer inquiries. Yeah, they're not going to answer. I mean, just call them on the phone. Don't do the online inquiry kind of thing, and just confirm that the address is correct, or if they mailed it out in the first place. And have the case number that you have when you paid the fee. They have to look that up. Lamira says, is it harder to get approved after a denial? It depends on what the reason for the denial was. There's various reasons in case you get denied. It could be a mistaken denial. It could be like you just forgot to include like your birth certificate. You have it now. So it just depends on what the denial reason is. Neil Fire says, how can I contact them? You call them up, ask for an info pass, and then once you get a hold of an officer, you give your case number, or just ahead of time to ask for your case number, and you ask them to confirm the address. Serene says, I'm sure to come in U.S. in B1, B2 now. Okay. Invite political asylum co-host. Let's invite. Luffy says, hello, can I travel to India I have app from VAWA. I traveled twice last year. It's up to you if you want to risk traveling. Kingdom says, I'm the petitioner. What should I take to the marriage-based interview? Your appointment notice has information on it, but you should bring evidence of your U.S. citizenship. Let me invite a friend. Let me see if he comes or not. Evidence of your status in the United States, evidence of your relationship, marriage certificate, potentially divorce records if you have previous ones, that kind of stuff. Fatback says, I'm an American citizen and my child has a green card. How do I get a certificate of citizenship? You file Form N-600 if it's appropriate. You have to show that you're living with you and stuff like that. But you file Form N-600 if they're minor, and you request a certificate of citizenship. On my website, I have information on that, jqqlaw.com. If you want to schedule a consultation, do that. Apple user says, can I still fix? I use a fake social to work. I don't know. It depends on the social belongs to someone or not. If you also claim to be a U.S. citizen or not. These are major issues that could pop up. Kingdom says, I'm the petitioner. Okay, answer that question, Kingdom. Mary says, is it the, and then doesn't finish the question. Lucy says, we answer your question, Lucy. Jeanette says, you think it's okay to file marriage-based green card on overstay visa? Historically, it's been okay. Right now, the Trump administration might be cracking down on that, unfortunately. If you overstayed a lot of time where you'll need a waiver if you leave and do consular processing, it might be worth the risk. It really depends on the case and how much risk you're willing to endure. Lamria says, is it harder to get a answer your question, Lamria, multiple times? Honey says, is it safe to travel with a minor misdemeanor speeding ticket to Canada? I can't talk about Canadian law, but it depends on your U.S. status. If you're not a citizen, speeding ticket, but one by itself is not a problem. If you have multiple, if you're driving like recklessly, it can be problematic. I got to see what the charges were. Charlie says, will beneficiary of I-130 be able to pick embassy of his choice outside of U.S. in which they want to have an interview instead of the one in their home country after getting I-601 approved? Typically, you have to go to home country unless you can show you can stay for extended periods of time in some other country and have a visa to enter, all that kind of stuff. So somebody may be able to choose, and it depends on that embassy whether they'll accept it. Sog says, do you recommend walking in with your EAD? I'm DACA with all these ICE in California. Do you recommend walking with your EAD? I mean, technically, you're always supposed to walk around with whatever status paperwork you have, so that's the government's recommendation. So user says, what is the best strategy for adopting a child abroad under 16? Will it matter if a child has both parents, one parent? I don't specialize in adoption. It's very immigration adoption is a very complicated, complex field with really complicated rules. So I've never got into it, so I don't want to advise on that because it's too much going on. It depends on if the country the child's from is considered part of the Hague Convention or not. And then there's a lot of hoops they have to jump through about the parentage and all that kind of stuff. So it's not something I specialize in. Alma says, I'm getting married next week. Is it too soon to file for my husband's adjustment of status application? The length of time separation between the date of marriage and the date of filing itself doesn't matter. It more has to do with the foreign person's background. So I'm going to download our guide, the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide. Go to marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Down and read that first, 50 plus pages of a breakdown of the process, and then schedule a private consultation with us to talk about it before you get married. Is better, so we could just analyze the case much better before you get married and lock yourself in. Kingdom says, I'm the petitioner. What should I take? I already answered your question. Beachwell says, does any type of criminal history make bond getting denied? I don't do detained and bond cases, so I don't want to answer questions on cases I don't handle. Jennifer says, what's the average wait time for immigration appointment outside the U.S., Ecuador? Well, it depends on the embassy. Every embassy is different. The Department of State started a website to help. So if you go to IV scheduling status tool, type into Google DOS IV tools or IV, this letters I and V, scheduling status tool, and then you look up the embassy and the type of case. So it's varies. So first of all, Ecuador, let's see, U.S. Embassy, Ecuador. The U.S. Embassy in Ecuador, I think it's San Salvador. Where is it? And Ecuador is in, what city is it in? Do they do embassy processing? So essentially, you go to IV Tools, you type in the kind of case you have and the thing, but I don't know how the embassy system in Ecuador works. I haven't done that embassy before, so you can look that up and give you an average time. You know, said they don't answer the phone any specific number. They do answer. If they got called, there'll be an automated system. You tell them you want to, info passport to talk with the officer. You give a case number, you get to a person. Imomar says, what if we get married before the 90 days and decide to wait after 9 days file US? That's really case specific. Please schedule a private consultation for that. C user says, thank you for honesty and trying to best present the complexity of the case, attorney. You're welcome. C user, thank you as always for the really interesting questions. C user follows up, does immigration law require a green card holder to carry the actual green card all the time or a photocopy? Technically, it's a requirement that if you're a green card holder, you have your green card with you all the time. Historically, the risk of losing the green card and having to order a new one is such a headache that I wouldn't tell my clients, the laws you have to do it. That's as much as I could say. But, if you lose your green card, it's such a hassle and problem to get a new one. At the very least, have a copy of it handy in case you lose it. But the law is that you have to carry paperwork with you at all times if you're not a citizen. Morales says, green card asylum based since February 2024. Is that normal for Missouri field office? I don't know Missouri field office particularly, but a case from February 2024 not being approved yet is not too abnormal. Now says, is it advisable to reschedule your interview date because your attorney wouldn't be available? Not with USCIS. Try to find an alternative person to come with you if they can help. You don't want to reschedule a USCIS interview date. Ionic says, can I still attend B1, B2 visa interview when I'm already a student here in the U.S.? No, because the B1, B2 visa interview is outside. You have to leave and come back. It's risky. They might cancel your student visa, so I'm not sure it's worth that. Kingdom says, does my husband need to take his divorce papers from previous marriage on the petitioner? Yeah, original documents, original versions of it too, because they want to compare that with the copy that you mailed as part of the case. Agua says, 42B approved. How long to get the green card? I don't do court and immigration court cases, so I don't really handle 42B. So I don't want to advise on things I don't handle or I don't have personal experience in. Kay says, have you seen more N400 scrutiny denials yet or so far about the same time in your experience? Same my experience. I haven't seen anything special or change. Daryl says, how much are consultations? How do I go about it? Well, Daryl, the consultation fees, we vary depending on the case and complexity. So what you go to do is, if you want to schedule a consultation, go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact. Fill out the information there, name, phone number, email, and a brief description about your case. And then we'll reply, once you know about what kind of case you have, we'll reply with if we could do it, if it's the kind of case that we handle. Like if you just say I'm asylum, like we just don't do asylum, I'll just tell you that. But if it's the kind of case we handle, I send a link for the proper kind of consultation for that and the fee, and you can take it from there. User 35, what about traveling domestically with a green card? I have a DUI from 3 years ago. Historically, I mean, it's not a problem. If you're in the U.S., you travel internationally, they can hassle you every time you come back. Probably let you in, but it depends on the details of the DUI as well. Alma says, thank you. Can you repeat how I contacted you for consultation? Yeah, go to our website, jqqlaw.com. That's J as in Jack, Q as in Queen, K as in King, law, LAW.com/contact. And you'll go to our contact page on the website and just fill in your information there, and we'll respond. Bobby says, I did an asylum appeal since 2022. Is there a chance I could just be granted asylum? I don't do asylum law, so I don't want to advise on that stuff. Jennifer says, it's a South American country. I know where Ecuador is. I just don't know what the capital is, and if they have an embassy there, you have to go to a neighboring country for the embassy. I don't know that situation because I haven't done an Ecuador case. Daryl Masal says, thank you, you're welcome. Steve says, is there any change on the medical with Trump's announcement requiring effective June 11th? Yeah, there's a change. A lot of, when you do a green card case in the U.S., you have to submit a completed medical checkup from I-693. I've seen lawyers on TikTok make like a big deal about it, but essentially it's like if you submit a medical checkup with your green card case and it gets denied, and the green card case gets denied, and you want to refile for a new green card or whatever, you have to get new medical checkups. Which is like, okay, that's not too big a deal. It's like, but that's the big change that Trump did on the medical checkup. Sadie Sade says, if my mother's B1 has a visa has overdue, but she has been waiting for I-485, that's considered legal. I think it means she overstayed her B1, but her adjustment status is pending. She's not considered legal. She's out of status. And historically, the government just put her in a period of authorized stay, which means they can stay here until a decision is made, but they reserve the right to pick her up by ICE. There's a handful of times I've been here recently where they're picking up people in the situation, which is very nasty that they're doing. Historically, they wouldn't do that, but she technically doesn't have status. But they just kind of, as a policy, because it's a waste of time and money to go after her, because she's probably going to get a green card, they just wouldn't do anything about it. But, you know, they're changing things, as you know, in this country. All right, there's a bunch of questions on TikTok. I'm sorry, Instagram, I forgot to answer. Lauren says, should I be worried about the interview for the green card? My husband's interview is Monday. Lauren, I don't, you know, you've been coming on my show a lot, but if you have a clean case and everything's good, no, but I haven't reviewed your case myself. Patel is probably going to ask the same question we saw. Sorry, John, asking again. I followed this. I don't know. Contact the embassy, contact the National Visa Center, contact the embassy, see what we can do. There's not much to do, Patel, from here. So that's that. Kenny says, told the case is ready to be scheduled for an interview. How long after interview set? Nobody has timelines whenever they get around to it. Steve says, got it. Thank you, attorney. Previously, I didn't understand what the announcement meant since that has been required for quite some time now. So it's a reapplication where new medical is needed. That's correct. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Steve, for an interesting question. I'll take one or two more questions and we'll call it a day. Let's see. Agua says, have you seen more? No, I already answered that question. Pikabu says, does wait time for this particular F2B visa category reduces due to smaller country and due to less demand inquiries? So the F2B is adult child of a green card holder that's unmarried. There is a reduction in time for F2B for most countries, except for like India, Philippines, China, where they might be potentially a little bit longer. So that part doesn't make much of a difference for having a small country. And the U.S. embassy in that country, it just depends on how busy they are. So yeah, if they're less busy, then potentially they'll do it faster. But what I found is the size of the country doesn't really matter. Some embassies just are slow, even though they don't have much to do. So it's just kind of a wait and see kind of thing. And let's do one more question. Wild Rush says, if I send my I-751 to the main building of USCIS, what do? I sent it to the original office. You're supposed to mail it to the I-751 mailing address. So I'm not sure what you mean, the main building of USCIS. There's no main building of USCIS. And how long does it take to get a work permit after biometrics? There's no connection between biometrics and the timelines that you get that for. So you just got to wait to get it. We got a lot more questions popping in. Unfortunately, we're done for the day. It's been half an hour. We'll be back again next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. I'm immigration lawyer John Castrovi. If you want to schedule a private consultation, go to our website, jqqlaw.com and /contact. That's the contact us page. You click on the hyperlink there too. But jqqlaw.com/contact, fill in your information, reply with data and guidance on how to schedule an individual meeting consultation. Thank you so much, everyone, for being part of the show, and God bless, be safe. I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.